Hi, my name is Kel and I'm a therapist and educator with a special interest in eating disorders. Come on in, take a seat, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for bite-sized content across the mental health and eating disorder spectrum. The topic for today's video is weight loss as a therapy goal. Now, this topic is one that comes up in almost all walks of my working life, whether that's directly supporting those affected by eating disorders, whether that's offering training, education, or consultancy on the topic. And often, the way that this topic is broached is in another professional asking me a question along the lines of, is it possible to support people to lose weight in a healthy way? Or is it ever safe to help a client lose weight, particularly if they have an eating disorder history? And it seems that often folks are pretty surprised by my response, because in the shortest and simplest version, my answer is no, it's not appropriate for weight loss to be a goal in therapy. I consider myself a counsellor and a psychotherapist, a talking therapist, if you like, and I cannot imagine on what basis it would ever be appropriate for me to be specifically supporting someone to lose weight. Now, of course, I'm aware that weight is very relevant to the experience of some of those affected by eating disorders, and I'm absolutely open and up for discussing that topic in my work with clients. But if I am setting or agreeing to a specific goal of weight loss in my work with clients, what I have done at that point is I have walked straight into a weight bias, weight stigma, diet culture laden experience, and in that sense I am continuing to harm the client that I'm working with. The chances are that if somebody is sat in front of you working with you, irrespective of whether they have an eating disorder or not, and they're expressing that their primary goal for therapy is to lose weight, they've probably already been significantly harmed by diet culture and weight stigma. They perhaps feel pretty negative about their physical self and assume that there is perhaps something wrong with living in the body that they're in. In fact, it's a general assumption in our society at present that being in a higher body weight is directly correlated with a whole plethora of health conditions. And yet, what we see if we start to pull that research apart is that that's not necessarily the case, and that, as all things physical health and mental health, it is way more complicated than that. And it's been simplified down to this apparent causation of a higher body weight equaling health problems, with little to no evidence to be sure that that's the reality. We don't actually know how that mechanism works, if that mechanism works, in many of the instances of healthcare where being in a higher body weight is blamed. And blaming somebody for their body weight often contributes to chronically low self-esteem, negative self-talk. It can contribute to the development of eating disorders, higher levels of shame, even other struggles such as self-harm, addiction. All of those individually and collectively are potentially significantly more harmful than them actually living in a higher body weight. And in fact, one thing that I've noticed is that the shame and stigma that surrounds living in a higher body weight often results in folks being more and more reclusive, going out and experiencing the world less and less, and spending more time sedentary and at home. So in a backwards kind of perverse way, the attempt by people to encourage people to be what is deemed a healthy weight can actually contribute to people losing physical fitness over time, because they're not able to go out into the world as comfortably as somebody who is thinner and experience, walking in the park, walking their dog, getting out and about in the world, because they may very well be feeling so self-conscious about that, and they may very well literally have had experiences of regularly being judged. So getting back to this as a therapy goal, what I see as being my role here, if somebody attends therapy and sees weight loss as a therapy goal, is helping them to explore why they might see weight loss as the answer to some or all of their problems. What is it that you believe weight loss is going to give you? Is it going to give you fitness? And is that true? Is it going to contribute to you feeling more confident about yourself? And if so, how might we go about doing that right now in the body you're presently living in? What has the implications for this person been of living in a higher weight body and the experience of other people in their lives as a consequence of that? There is so much there to begin to unpack. It is entirely possible, if this person that we're hypothetically talking about here is living with an eating disorder, it's possible that in working on some of their emotional struggles in relation to their eating disorder and in relation to how they feel about themselves, that they may actually find their relationship with food and their body improves, and they may possibly, as a consequence of that, if their body weight is unhealthy for them individually, lose some weight. But I would never ask a client about that. I would never measure that. There is no scales in my practice room, and there never will be, because that isn't a goal here. The goal is that the person is as happy and as healthy as they can be, I would guess, in the cheesiest of senses, that they work towards accepting themselves and feeling more confident. Some goals that are actually realistically meaningful, because at the end of the day, the body that we live in is for the most part genetic, and we have limited control over it. If we as professionals continue to perpetuate the belief that a person can simply diet and lose weight, or change their habits in relation to food and lose weight, we're really working on some very poor science at that point, because if it was that simple, then diets in general would be successful, and what we know is that less than 5% of diets are actually successful. We've got this whole issue topsy-turvy and upside down. I trained primarily initially as a humanistic counsellor, and as part of that, the idea is that you accept the people that you're working with, that you're understanding and compassionate and empathic. And to sit with a person and say, let's work towards you losing weight, is absolutely not accepting them as a person. It's ladening them with judgment that they will in some way somehow be better if they lose that weight. Now, some of you watching today's video perhaps have at some point in the past found yourself having this conversation with somebody in your life or a client, and are starting to realise that perhaps some of your own weight bias, weight stigma, and toxic diet culture infiltrated that conversation and the way that you chose to respond to that person. I would ask that you were compassionate to yourself in that reality, but that you also take this as an opportunity to reflect on that and think about what that might have truly communicated to that individual about who they are and what they're worth, and how you might choose to do that differently in the future perhaps. I would encourage you to learn more about health at every size, body neutrality and body positivity if they're terms that are new to you. And I will leave a few links in the description box for you to start to have a look at some information that is surrounding the topic that I've been discussing here today. Now, as always, topics here I could talk about for hours, but keeping this bite-sized content, I am going to leave this here today. I would love to see some conversation in the comment section below. I'm aware of recent, in the social media realm, there has been some strained discourse on this topic specifically. So I'd really ask that if you're sharing different beliefs and disagreeing in the comment section, which I would absolutely encourage you to do if you have different beliefs, to be mindful of not being attacking or intentionally, directly, personally insulting to other individuals in the comment section. That is in no way appropriate and won't be tolerated. I will delete those comments. But I really want to start to encourage people to think about this area of human existence differently. I really want us to start to think about working with clients who maybe bring this issue to therapy differently, and indeed responding to those people in our lives that bring this topic to us differently as well. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. I would also really appreciate it if you'd give this video a thumbs up, or perhaps share it with somebody who might be interested. Until next time, be kind, be curious, be yourself.